What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences.
Good job there. Nice rock, high wing.
But more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends.
Like, dude, you're killing it. You're having a great day.
So just never give up.
Airport, and then, oh, by the way, I got carb ice while I was flying through, so the engine started running rough, and I had to...
Join us tonight as we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I am Bryon Bowman, and this is SuperAero Live.
That's a lot. I mean, a lot of cookies. What's up, Av Geeks? It's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. It's time for SuperAero Live. Man, am I so excited to spend Wednesday night. I had a busy work day. And live from Wisconsin, it's Wednesday night, says Brian Turner in the chat. Hi to a bunch of other people. Can you hear this heavy breathing in my ears? That's our guest. I'll introduce you to in a minute. Father-daughter flights is here. Waukesha Pilot's here. Zach Sherman, Gary Smith, Nathan Ballard, Flannel Life. What? Thank you, buddy. Who else is here? Did I say Waukesha Pilot already? Hanger Tales is here. Check out Hanger Tales on Instagram. He posted some great archival footage of crop dusting. That was really cool to see. Who else is here? Yeah, the gang. Robert's here, and Brian Turner's here, I guess. Parati Show. Did I pronounce that better this week? He'll let me know in the chat. Everybody, it's so great to see you on this wonderful Wednesday night. My mic is fairly hot, says Zach Sherman. That's why it's live, and it's different every week because the mic moves, because I have to move it for work. Oh, too quiet, too loud. Great television right now as I fix the audio. Okay, everybody, enough of that. Real quick, did you like it? Did you share it? Did you subscribe to it? Do those things. That would be dope. And if you want to really help out, join Patreon. We got an exclusive Discord server. We have exclusive Zoom chats. It's super dope. If you come in, you can hear Zach make more dad jokes in the Zoom. Okay, enough goofing around. Let's introduce our guest tonight. Oh, this is the way.
Oh, sorry. Wife and I were having date night.
Everybody, Erik Johnston is here. There he is.
What's up, everybody?
Now apparently our audio
doing?
Is perfect. He says our audio is perfect.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's what. So, awesome. Erik, we met down in Louisiana almost exactly a month ago. And
is it really? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we're like best friends now, even though we never.
Well,
talked,
we are.
But we're basically best friends.
Well, we both know Brian Turner, so that just kind of.
It's true.
You know.
A little behind-the-scenes insight for folks. So for everybody, we were at SwampSTOL. You were doing the photography, because we're going to talk tonight about all your photography and videography that you do. And I was there announcing the show, and we shared an Airbnb, and there's this weird, awkward thing where, like, we didn't know if we were in the right Airbnb, but we were inside of it together.
That's right.
And I was like, "Are you?
A one bedroom?" No, I'm joking.
Weirdly enough, you've made me take the little kid twin bed, which is fine.
I got there first.
It's true. You did get there first. You were on time. But then a special guest called us while we were staying there. So Brian Turner, just plain silly, called us from Hawaii. So you guys are seeing Brian Turner's been releasing these videos of his aircraft adventures in Hawaii. He took a break from flying airplanes in Hawaii and spending time with his family in Hawaii to call us, you and me, and say how weird it was that we met each other before, like, he and I met each other, because he's been on the show a number of times, and also to complain vehemently about the prices of everything in Hawaii.
Yeah, all the food. Since SwampSTOL, Brian and I have gone out for a beer,
and you were there in spirit, by the way. And Bryon told me about the trip and how much fun he and the family had, but he did kind of tell me how expensive it was, and it's no joke. It's up there.
I mean, it's still a bucket list thing for me to go, but it sounds like I could probably buy a Piper Cub or something instead. So
exactly, or either whole or share.
Yeah, well, for sure a share, right? Probably just the flight alone would be a share. So okay, let's dig in, man. So we talked a lot. We talked a lot in Louisiana about what you do, but no one watching was there. So we need to have this conversation again. And I'm wondering if you could just start like from the beginning. Like, what's the Erik Johnston like origin story? Like, how did you find aviation? Because your path into it, and we're gonna get. Well, I can show. Like, this is one of the first photos you sent me. Like, that's you, like hanging out the back. Like, that's your life. So maybe, like, how did you get to, like, how did you find aviation? How did you find this passion for aviation?
Well, I grew up around aviation. My dad was I grew up an Air Force brat, and I was born in Japan, came back to the States, and my dad was a civilian pilot. And so I always grew up around the smaller airports, always around aviation. And it was pretty early on that I discovered that, it was what I wanted to do, or wanted to at least put the majority of my focus to. When I was a kid, had some ADD issues going on, and aviation was the only thing that really kind of kept my attention. And I was also able to draw pretty well when I was a kid. So when I got into photography, I asked my dad. My dad was a photographer. He got me into it, and I thought, okay, once I realized how to take a picture, it's a lot faster than drawing a picture. So I kind of went with that.
Sure.
And, it just kind of built from there. And there was not any really light at the end of the tunnel. Like, this is what I'm going to do with my life, And in fact, it's still not what I'm doing with my life. I got a full-time job as a line service guy at the McKinney Airport currently. And, but I would love to do this. I would love to make my vacation my vocation, if you will, and hopefully one day it'll start going down that path.
So, talk to me a little bit about what came first. Like, was it the job? Like, did you start as line service, and then that kind of gave way to like the professional side of the photography, or was it?
I've been doing line service for probably way too long, for like over 20 years, probably 20, 25 years. And the photography stuff has always kind of just been there off and on, mostly as a hobby. I started doing it professionally, and I started doing weddings. And because I knew that there was a profit to be made there. And it wasn't that seriously long into doing weddings that I realized that that's not what I wanted to keep on doing photography wise, but I still kept on, going to airports and shooting airplanes and this and that. And then I had a little really crappy Canon PowerShot camera, and it had a video button on it. And it was probably a 2 megapixel camera, if that. And so I put it on video, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to start making videos and have fun with it. Like you see on YouTube and the internet, and you real cool graphics and all that. So I went out and shot some stuff, and then I come home, and just like most other guys, people that are just getting into videography, I sit down and I go, what do I do with it now? How do I put the cool titles, the graphics, the fades, the transition, this, now, whatever those things are called? How do I put them all in there? And just started reading blogs, watching whatever videos were available at the time on YouTube, which is now about 12 years ago. My channel's about 12 years old now. And just kind of self-taught, just trying to, I remember going, with photos, you got JPEG, TIFF, whatever. And, when I finally wrapped my head around the digital photography, I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, what's a Kodak? I'm familiar with Kodak, the camera, and film and stuff like that. But what's a Kodak? And why is there so many of them, So I just, all self-taught, and I just kind of started to learn about those things. And I really wish I'd have gone and taken some formal training, some formal classes, because I think it would have helped me get it more of a jump start on it.
So then you end up here, right? It snowballs into that.
That was my first time. Actually, that was my second time shooting out of the tail of the B-25. That B-25 is with the Mid-America Flight Museum in Mount Pleasant, Texas. It's named God and Country. And that was on the way home from the Breckenridge Air Show in 2018, which was my first air show to ever get paid to shoot. And the first time I shot out of the B-25 was on the way there. And it was kind of an interesting story because on the way there, that museum has got a knack for pulling out some rabbits out of the hat, if you will. And it was a lot of firsts for me. First time shooting out of the tail of the B-25. That's like one of the most coveted camera platforms to use. It can keep up. It's fast enough to where them pretty much all the warbirds can keep up with it without having to slow down to put flaps, gears, or look kind of weird, because they're just trying to slow up for the camera platform. But when we take off on Mount Pleasant,
why specifically? So thank you for.
That's why that and the unrestricted field of view. You can't really tell, and it's a grainy photo, but I'm harnessed in, so there's no way for me to fall out of that airplane. And that's the biggest safety concern there, obviously, because you're sitting in just a wide open area. But when we took off, I was looking at a Corsair. Let me remember this. A Corsair, 2 TBMs, 2 Wildcats, a P-40, and a P-51. Dang. And I was kind of, I was kind of overwhelmed going, it's in the middle of the day. The lighting stinks. It's not golden light. It's in the middle of the day. Our mission is to go to the air show, and I just happened to be in the B-25 shooting all this stuff. And I'm looking at the spread of warbirds going, what do I do? I have no idea what to do. There's so many of them. I'm used to shooting 1 airplane, maybe 2 airplanes. And Warren Peach, who's right behind the B-25 and the Corsair, he goes, shouldn't we do like an echelon right or something, which is a stack up? And if you see me stack up, like this,
Yeah, yep.
And my intercom was kind of intermittent in the back, so we were close enough to where I couldn't relay the yes to the pilot to convey that to him. So I just looked at him and I gave him a thumbs up like this, and he goes, "I'm getting a thumbs up from the photographer." So they all just kind of moseyed over and just kind of stacked up. And I should have sent you those photos, and I'm sorry for not doing it, but it was magical seeing all those guys and some of the best guys in the warbird industry stack up like that, going, wow. This is really, really special.
That sounds amazing. That is like what you do, and even at SwampSTOL, you were shooting air to air. You came back like, oh yeah, I shot some air to air with Legend Cubs, whatever. I don't know if that was maybe that was NDA. I was supposed to say, I don't know, but
no, it's all good.
That's like a bucket list for me. Like this, talking to you is like combining both sides of what I'm passionate about, so I'm excited about. Okay, so a couple things in the chat people want me to ask you. Let me see here. Waukesha Pilot says that you probably know about f-stops and stuff like that. I'd say that's probably accurate. Nathan Ballard says, serious question, if Erik had to choose one telephoto lens for aviation, which one is it? I'd like to know because I want to take pics of my students while they solo. So he's a flight instructor, so he wants to photograph their first solos while he's on the ground.
Gotcha. That's actually a very good question, and it depends on the environment that you're shooting with. Basically, if he's an instructor shooting solo students or students doing their first solo, or just planes taking off in general, he's going to need a lens that'll reach out and touch someone. So the most powerful lens that I have is a 70 to 200. 2.8, I think, is the f-stop on it, and it's a great lens for air-to-air. If some of the guys are not that good with formation and I got to keep them loose, then I can still reach out there and touch them. And but for what he's wanting to do, I would recommend he needs to get a good telephoto, like maybe up to 400 mil or something like that. If it's a really big airport and he's really far away, he might need a 600, but that's a monster of a lens right there, So if he can go with like maybe a 2 to 400 or something like that, but still that's a lot of money just to photograph people doing their solo. But it would definitely get the job done. If he's at smaller airports to where he's like, Mesquite or Rockwall, just other airports that you're not quite so far away, then maybe the 70 to 200 or probably even the 300 mil lens would work out good.
I'm taking notes as well because what I've noticed. Well, I mean, so let's talk about nerd out for a second here.
Yeah, man.
Like for me, one of the challenges that I have, I think you saw while I was down. Like I'm shooting video on something like this. Like this is like basically a Sony A7S, but it's a FX3, so it's like more cinema or whatever. I have.
That's a good camera.
It is a great camera, but when I walked around Oshkosh, maybe I'm just like Nick Moore has been on the show. You might know him. I know he knows you. He was excited you were on the show.
Yep.
Like when I walk around Oshkosh and I've got the 70 to 200, like I hate it. Because this is heavy, and I'm drenched in sweat. I'm trying to get footage with it. It's kind of ungame because I'm trying to record video, and it's like then I need a tripod or whatever. And for me, because of the way I'm shooting video, this doesn't, at least at Oshkosh, doesn't have like enough reach always. Like I've been talking to folks about like, well, do I get like a I got a doubler. I don't know. It's insane. But in the end, I just want to carry all this crap. So props to you. Props to you for being dedicated to carry that stuff. By the way, a couple things to shout out real quick. Jonathan Christman. Whoa. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Dude, you get some donations. That's
yeah.
Sweet. Look at that.
Jonathan says, I literally just found out I can send a message in a highlight. Yes, you can. He usually sends like these weird animated gifs. Just Plain Silly, also in the super chat. You guys are amazing. No, you are amazing. I love you, buddy. Nick Moore with a super chat. Yay, aviation photography on SuperAero. Yeah, Nick Moore has got a aviation photography podcast. If you guys, you should get on. We should connect you guys. Nathan Ballard says he's contributing to the Just Plain Silly Bryon Grumman 1980s inspired glamour romantic photo shoot. That's a thing. It sounds like I think that's a thing that you need to do. That's a thing that you need to do.
What would Bryon look good in?
Oh, what would maybe nothing? Bryon, take notes. Anyway, sorry.
I got to go throw up. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just talk. I'll just go on screen. You go puke, and I'll hang out here. We'll talk about lenses. So Nick says that he, if you want to spend a ton of money, 60 to 600 is what he uses. But I think part of what you said, which is interesting, is when you're doing this, Erik, like when you're hanging out here, the planes are close. Like
yeah, they are. My standard go-to lens for air-to-air is probably my 24 to 105, and like I said, it all depends on the formation ability of the subject airplane. And if sometimes we'll put a formation guy in there so we can really tighten them up. But if you don't have that ability, you need to keep the space in there to keep them safe. So then I go for this 70 to 200. But the 24 to 105, I really like. When I shoot the jets like that there, I'm trying to remember. That could have been I got a 10 to 18 that I use sometimes. And that's crazy wide, but those guys get pretty tight sometimes, so, but it also depends on the kind of shot, what kind of shot I'm going for. If I want to get, like, if I'm right there, I'm in the L39 Albatross, shooting all that stuff. Actually, that was, come to think of it, I had to think about it. That's a screenshot from a GoPro, believe it or not. That's an edited screenshot from a GoPro. So it's like crazy wide angle.
Yeah. So those guys are really close.
Yeah.
You could reach out.
Sometimes
and
if I
them.
go right. Yeah, but sometimes with flying with those guys, if I get the 24 to 105, and if I zoom all the way back out and make it wide to 24 mil, I can't get sometimes I can't get the whole jet in frame. So if we're lots of times when I'm with the jet guys, where it's more of a training flight, so I'm just there. It's not a sanctioned or coordinated air-to-air shoot. If it is, it'll be different, and you're going to see a lot more beautiful shots. And this one, you get a lot of reflection in the canopy and stuff. It's yeah. I forgot this one was a GoPro screenshot, but there are some others, and I may have not sent those to you. But
I got a ton of photos here. Like,
okay,
like there you
you
go.
can tell. Yeah, there I was holding onto the wing. No, that's another. That's another GoPro screenshot. But it's so cool because I try to be as diverse as I can, and photographer, videographer, GoPro guy, or whatever. I show, and it's a blessing and a curse because it's like I try to be a kind of a one-stop shop, if you will. Say, hey, well, let's bring Erik in, and he can do this and this and this. But to do this and this, it's a ton of equipment. It's not just one or two cameras. It's one or two DSLRs, my Canon XA20, 12 GoPros, and I've been mounting GoPros.
I'm sitting here complaining to you about like, oh, my lens is heavy, and you're like,
I don't want to hear it.
No, I mean that was the thing. I was really amazed at SwampSTOL was like watching you work, like I don't know if you want me to share this. You're like, can I think I'm gonna buy a bicycle, like an electric bike.
Yeah, I did. I bought one.
Oh, did you? Because you're like, I could really use, like, you're moving around so much, running around, and you're like, if I had a bicycle today, would have been a lot less work.
I was well. For one, everybody there was just sweating.
It was
like crazy,
gross. It was gross hot. Yeah.
Yeah. So dehydration was a factor, and whenever you're looking at that as a factor, you got to consider everything else much more seriously. And I had my vest on, and I had anywhere from 4 to 7 GoPros at a time, plus the mounts, just kind of hanging on the vest because I was trying to relocate them between the airplanes for the different heats. And some worked, some didn't. It was kind of a learning experience for me as well doing that. But it was the weight, carrying all that weight around and then going up and down the line, trying to remember who's flying the Huskies, the Heavy STOL, the Expedition, whatever, who's going down, who needs cameras, what, and this, that, who's got the camera, how many cameras do I have on that airplane? It was a juggling thing. But having all that weight, you're right. I was like, and Tom Flannery, he goes, I thought you would get a one wheel. And I was like, man, there's a hospital visit waiting for me if I get a one wheel.
All the cool kids are riding
e-bike.
It was like Austin Clemens is on his one wheel, and every time he'd pass by, he'd be like, meow, like, and then like even Steve Henry and his daughters just like in formation on one wheels. I don't get it.
Maybe if I built up my confidence in it, but not right now. Yeah.
Not with
I'd have broken an ankle. Yeah.
Another question for you from the chat as we look through some of the more work here. Based on that other photo, I think triggered it. I think it was John who asked. I can't find it now. John asked about how do you deal with reflections? I mean, obviously, when you're in the when you're doing air to air,
it's just called. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just called lens hood, and I have it in my other bag in the closet. But anyways, it's just it looks like a really flimsy rubber frisbee, and it collapses down to be almost flat, and it's corrugated, kind of comes out. So the smaller ends here that you put that on the lens, and the bigger portion right here, like you're shooting this way, bigger portion, you hold it up to the canopy, and that takes away all reflection. They make different sizes. You can get them at B&H Photo. You can find them all different places. You can find them anywhere from $10 or $15 up to way to probably $70. I don't know. Don't spend $70 on one. It's just a cheap piece of plastic or rubber. But it also serves as a potential to not bump your lens against the canopy, because some of these lenses, if you have a filter on the tip of the lens, it might be gnarled, for your fingers to kind of get a good hold of it. Yep. So you don't want to bump that because that'll scratch the canopy. And of course, these canopies are really cheap. So, but no, really, you don't want to do that.
I did hear that. I heard that you just.
I cut out.
No, I'm saying they. I heard that that the canopy you just buff it out real quick when you.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was just I was joking on your. It was a. Continue.
What? I can't hear you. What? So you put tape around the canopy. Yeah, you kind of hold it up there, and it's a balancing act though, because you're letting it flop, and then you're readjusting your zoom to get the frame that you want. Then you got to hold it back up there. So it's air-to-air photography is not crazy difficult to do inherently, but there are some challenges. And when you're shooting the jet stuff and the bubble canopies, or if you're inside a Mustang or something like that, then canopies are something that reflections are just something that you have to try to deal with and try to mitigate. And it just goes with the territory. But I think some photographers make air-to-air photography out to be more special than it is. It's cool. It's the coolest thing that I get to do, but it's not as difficult as some guys make it out to be.
I mean, do those, because I get nauseous, so maybe that's part of it. They're just like, oh, blah, oh, it's a tough gig, man. Blah, look, I mean, you obviously have to be good at what you're doing, but
it can be difficult. I noticed it more on one of the recent shoots when I went out to Moody Air Force Base and I shot the Payfox and the Jolly Greens, the helicopters, because I'm holding. I got my DSLR on the gimbal. And in an aircraft, whenever the airplane accelerates or decelerates or goes into a turn or rolls out of a turn, the gimbal will kind of lead or lag, normally on the horizon. Well, in a helicopter, that's all we're doing is we're pitching and rolling all the time to keep up with this stuff. So it was a constant battle for me. And please don't take this like I'm complaining, because I'm not. It's just matter of factual. It was a different. I was a little bit more behind the camera, no pun intended, but than I normally would be, and it all worked out to be a fantastic shoot, but there were some more challenges on that than usual, and the air transfer as well. We got both doors open on this whiskey model Jolly Green, and the air, the gimbal. It does great, but sometimes you get that blast of air when he does a pitch change or something like that, and he'll grab the lens and just kind of swing the gimbal around. So you got to get the gimbal back centered. Okay, what's in frame? All right, get us back to where we were. There's a lot of dynamics to it.
And I think I've got some photos of that we'll get to in a minute, because you were about to go do that when we were in Louisiana. You were only a little
just
bit
a couple
excited.
days after that. Yeah, right.
Talk to me about this. So you sent some really beautiful work over, and talk to me a bit about some of this stuff. These are more shots of, like, that is stunning.
That's actually just a drone shot. That was at the Texas Jet Blast that my buddy Russell Armstrong put on just about a couple months ago now at Sulphur Springs, Texas, and he did it 2 years ago as well. Not last year because of that stupid COVID stuff, but whatever. So we did it this year. My buddy Gary Daniels and I came over to document it. Gary did all photos. I did mostly video and a little bit of photos. And that was getting set up for the night shoot. Oh, I should have sent you those. Anyways, for the night shoot, we shot 5 airplanes for a night shoot, which is pretty sporty. Normally, I can do 3 by myself, and that's Bill Cumbersom's MiG-17, which he just flew with Tyler, by the way, for that air show. We had 3 MiG-17s at Tyler for the Rose City Air Fest. That was really cool.
That's really cool.
But yeah, and so I was just kind of flying the drone around, waiting for the light to get good. And I go, oh, wait, let me do some. I always forget to do the vertical shots looking down to get the profile. So I flew it over those. And Diana's airplane, the really colorful L-39, it's L-39, L-39A, B, whatever. It's a special airplane. But anyways, the paint job, I didn't realize how cool that was until I got home or I was flying the drone. I go, oh, man, that's really cool. Look at the paint scheme on that thing. And even she got a kick out of it, and Diana, she's a hoot that flies that thing.
Yeah, that's super, super, super. I mean, these shots are. I'm a sucker for like the top-down stuff. And you said like, oh,
and it's
like
so easy. I just forget to do it.
Oh yeah, well, and then several you were saying like, oh, waiting for the light to get good, but like the light is pretty good there. It was starting to get good.
Well, the drone I have is a Mavic Mini. And there are a lot better drones out there. I like this one because the footprint of it, it's when you unfold it, it's not much bigger than my hand. And being an aviation photographer, I'm at the airport. So God forbid if something were to kind of go wrong, I like a smaller footprint, if you will, and that works out great. But it's not the best for low light scenarios. So it was right on the edge of not being good right there. But it worked out.
I want to hop to another question. Everyone's got questions. For some reason, no one asks any good questions when non-photographer aviation people are on. That's not true. People are asking good questions. Feels like photography. Everyone's like, how do I do the magic? You do the magic? How do I do that magic? All right. Here's a question from Gary. I think it's actually a really good one. Sorry, Gary. I didn't mean to sound surprised. Gary asks, Erik, what was one of your early shoots that put you on the map and you got noticed? You really got noticed in the air photo space. Because I think, for people who don't know, like, you're kind of like one of the guy.
Thanks, man. I don't know about that, but I thought you might ask, or I was hoping someone might ask this, and that would probably be the shoot that we did with the Columbine 2, the original Air Force One, which is the Lockheed Constellation that Eisenhower. Yeah, I sent you some stuff on that, and
I've got that. It's
that was my first. That was my first time doing a really big shoot out of the B-25. With Mid-America. A good buddy of mine, Tyson Reiniger, who's an amazing photographer, was in the tail. And we both thought that he and I would both be in the tail. But it was kind of a special shoot because this was the second time that Connie had flown in like 15 years. So I love this shot right here. And this is rounding, I think, El Paso, and she just kind of settled in. We're about maybe a couple hours into the flight or so. And she just kind of settled in and goes, I'm happy. This is the speed that I want to go. Because it was a completely reverse engineered photo flight. And I can go into more detail sometime with you. But we were trying to let her fly from Marana, Arizona to Mount Pleasant. Ultimately, her last leg was going to be in Bridgewater, Virginia, where she is now getting restored. But it was going to be a good, safe spot to land with a support structure with the Mid-America Flight Museum out there and a lot of tooling out there if they needed to do some stuff, which they did. The guys, Brian Miklas and his crew with Dynamic Aviation, worked on the airplane for a year and a half to get to this point. And then when I was working at Love Field at the time, Scott Glover, who owns the B-25 and the Mid-America Museum, said, hey, would you be interested in doing this shoot with us, this trip? And I was like, absolutely. That's an amazing opportunity, and thank you for even considering me. So some time goes by, and then all of a sudden he goes, it's time. And I was like, wow, okay. He goes, they're going to do the test flight. I think that was on a Friday. It was on a Friday or Saturday. But anyways, he goes, they're going to do the test flight, and then they're going to pull the screens out of the engines and check for metal. There was acceptable tolerances of metal in the screens, or maybe not at all. Then they decided, okay, the very next day we're gonna go. So Scott, I was driving home with dinner for the family, and my phone, Scott calls, and I go, tell me good news, brother. And he goes, it's a go. He goes, be over here in Mount Pleasant like 6 a.m. or whatever. We're gonna take the B-25 over to Marana. So we did. It was cold in the morning. I'll never forget it. But we get over there, and you could just feel the anticipation. It was like, I've never been in the military. I've never served combat or anything like that, so I can't, accurately compare to that. But that was the feeling of anticipation, and the spirit of the morale was so high, and the anxiety was just there, just getting it to that point, just knowing that these guys for the last year and a half have been just working their butts off on this thing to get it to where it was. And to know that here we're coming in to try to, basically for all the glamour shots, all the really cool stuff. And it's very humbling, and it was a very special moment. But for obviously for what it was, but to see that Connie in the air, until I saw that, the most beautiful airplane that I'd flown in formation with was a Corsair. But when I saw the Connie, I'm like, that's it. That is the most beautiful airplane that I've seen flying in the air. And with that one, the history of that one being the original Air Force One, it's got such a cool story behind it, So it's not just one of two Connies that's kind of flying at the moment, in the world, or definitely the U.S. But that is the very first Air Force One. So you're looking at it going, wow, we're so blessed and fortunate to be having this professional. Well, is my camera on? How's my battery? What's my f-stop? What's my shutter speed? This and that. I can't screw this up,
Yeah, no pressure, right?
Yeah, right. And Tyson got some amazing shots too. Golly.
Yeah, I feel like we could just sit and watch this footage like all night. Yeah, no, that's super cool. That's a super cool story. And I think it's interesting, like that. What is interesting about you, my friend, is that I feel like because of the career you've built for yourself, it's one story like that after another. Like sitting around the dining room table at SwampSTOL, drinking wine. We spent half the time trying to solve the world's problems, which we'll spare everyone.
We did. I remember that.
We'll spare everyone here with that. But the other half of the time,
some good progress on that.
Yeah, maybe. But the rest of it.
Sorry, I digress.
No, it's good. Maybe we did. I don't know. But then the other half of it was spent with stories like that. Like these are the things that you do on a pretty regular basis, and the people that you're meeting. I mean, we'll talk about the trip out with the choppers in a minute. Let's see. Oh, Nick Moore says, would you say getting the opportunity for air-to-air is more challenging than shooting air-to-air?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you're there, hypothetical situation, okay, when you're there in the air-to-air shoot, okay, and everybody's experienced, even if you're not, if you have certain settings on your camera set right, all you're doing is this.
Sure.
The pilots are doing all the hard work. The pilots are making all the, and some photographers will make it. I mean, oh man, look at what I did. I went like this. But now sometimes it can be much more challenging for the photographer if he's got to. Well, and one of the toughest things is calling the shoot.
Right.
If it's not going right, if it's not happening right, which knock on wood, I haven't had to done it yet, but I probably should have a couple times. But if it's just not going the way that it needs to go, being able to say, we're done. Let's knock it off and go home. Because you realize what it has taken to get to the point of being there and in the moment. Sure. And it's just like get-theritis for some pilots. It's a bad thing, And the photographers want to get the get-theritis is they want to get the photographs. And you just need to be able to pull the reins back and say, look, I want to live to do this tomorrow and the next week, so we're going to go home now.
But only next week. After that, it's fine.
Yeah, right. But I think that's probably one of the more difficult calls to make is say, hey, look, it's not happening. But you learn to be more accepting of that kind of scenario over time, especially after you do it a few times and you realize, okay, that one didn't go the way that I was hoping it would, for a few safety reasons or whatever. This now we should have done this way, that way, and you try to learn from it, and you try to obviously live to learn from it. Not to sound stupid, but it's a balance. Safety is the biggest thing with air-to-air. But if you're flying with a lot of experienced pilots, it's not difficult. It's not. And I've flown with some guys that are just, it's extremely easy to work with them because, the photo pilot, he knows where to go. He knows to keep the flight safe, where to go, this and that, whatever. He knows the call signs, whatever. The photo subject, he can tuck it in tight and he sticks it. He stays right there. But then again, some of these, a lot of the warbird guys and they can just stick it right there. And when you're flying that close, you're doing hand signals. You're like, go up, go this way, halt, go down, halt, stuff like that. If they're a little bit further away, you do radio calls. If they can't see your hand, say up 20, forward 5, down 30, whatever. And those are not feet. It's just kind of a general reference. If like up 45. Oh, you're really far back. I need you to really come up forward. Up 5. Well, that's just a little bit there. Not necessarily 5 feet, but a little bit more higher than what you're doing right there. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it works great. So that's what you always hope for.
Got some a hard hitting question just came in from Dan from Taking Off. He wants to know what in the world happened to your hair. Did you watch too many episodes of Vikings?
I shaved it all off.
It looks good, man. I like that.
Well, I got tired of sweating, so I got to try to cool off as much as possible.
For real, man. No, yeah. I also want to start working out so I am not wearing like an extra parka. Guys, it was so hot in SwampSTOL. There's like the crawdads were like coming out of the runway. I didn't know they were in the dirt and they're just coming out like, kill me, please. We're like, it's pretty bad.
Do you have air conditioning?
We get into the broadcast was done from like a little mobile kind of studio in a camper, and that thing, the air conditioning was so overtaxed. It was like with all the computer equipment and everything inside, and it was just like slightly cooler in there, and we'd all go sit there, just like
a little bit cooler, a little bit drier.
Yeah, and then the Tom who from NationalSTOL's in there, and he's like, guys, like you're warming it up in here. Like, get out of here. All right. Someone.
That was a tough one.
Oh, man. We survived that together. Okay. Yeah, people have asked me, they wanted.
And you did an amazing job broadcasting that, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, the one over the Sun Fun one over Florida. You're the guy they should have for every single one of those, I think.
I think so, too. Yeah, I would like that very much. I'm trying to figure out if I can get to Minnesota for Sodbusters. I got some day job stuff I'm trying to work out, but separately, I know NationalSTOL isn't connected with necessarily. I know that they do, some of the pilots do it, but like anyone from EAA at AirVenture, if you want me to announce the STOL demo at AirVenture, like I would probably do that. Like I think.
Probably make it happen.
Could probably work that out. No, I've been just as a side note, like Doug and Tom and Anitra from NationalSTOL are amazing, and it's
they are
just super grateful that they would trust me with that because it's this new thing they're building, and they're trying to. They got you're starting something up. You only have one shot sometimes, and so to be part of that one shot is like really cool. So I really trust them.
That's kind of how we felt.
I thank them. I don't trust them. I thank them. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's kind of how we all felt when the Doug Jackson and Tom Flannery did the Lone Star STOL up in Gainesville. That was last year, and I remember Brian Lee with Live Air Show TV was heading up the live broadcast of that, and he came up. And because I was filming Doug and some of the other guys doing the setup, and Brian Lee walks up. He goes, "We're the only aviation attraction in the country for that weekend." There was 3 other, I don't remember which ones, but there's 3 other major military bases, I think, that canceled because of the COVID stuff, and it was just starting to flare up. So we go, well, we're still doing it. And the weather came in. Some guys weren't able to make it because, IFR, they're special or temporary IFR, whatever, the weather sucked. And it got so bad to where that there's so much water precipitation coming down that a couple of guys went out there on the grass runway to practice, and they just plowed their big old Tundra tires, just plowed ruts because it was so soft. And we said, okay, we can't do that. So Doug walks into the FBO, everybody's there. He goes, "Hey, any objections to doing this on concrete?" Well, on dry concrete, every time you land those big Tundra tires, it's about $15 off the tires because it takes up that much concrete. It takes that much rubber off every time you land. So that's why they prefer grass, because it just kind of spins them and gets them going. But all the guys, it's cold, it's windy, it's rainy, and everyone goes, "Yeah, let's do it." There was no hesitation. So we moved everything over to that. But it was that same kind of feeling that, just like you said, it was like, hey, it's the first one is special. We're here. Let's get it done, and let's do the best job that we can.
Yeah, it's a super cool thing. I don't want to. We could talk about our adventures in NationalSTOL all night too. I mean, it's a cool thing. I hope everyone checks it out. And just thanks for saying that. Okay, I didn't have a good suave segue. People in the chat are asking. Apparently, Bryon had to go pee.
Ask away.
Bryon had to go pee. People are talking about him peeing in the chat.
I see that now.
I wanted to ask, people were asking something about F-14s, and you sent me a video about an F-14.
Ah,
and I'm wondering if you
F-14s.
This video, can you tell me what's this that we're looking at?
Well, I was playing around on Facebook one day, and I saw some photos of these things, and this guy down in Temple, Texas. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so I won't. It's probably cool, but I'll refrain. But anyways, he posts those pictures of these abandoned F-14s. And so I go back to find the post later on. I couldn't find it. But I knew that my buddy Richard Garrett with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum had responded to it. So I texted Richard, and I go, hey, I can't find that post. He goes, yeah, I messaged the guy and told him to take the post down because he's probably going to start getting some unwanted attention. Excuse me, which he was. People from all over the world, different parts of the world, were saying, "Hey, can you find me this part number? Can you find me this? Is this that?" And as you can tell, they're pretty gutted. I mean, these are hulks, they're shells, but there are parts of it. I mean, the biggest reason why they're so, is such a touchy subject is because of Iran. Okay, apparently we sold Iran F-14s back in the day when they were kind of cool, and then they became jerks, and now we don't like them, and they have F-14s that they're still maintaining an airworthy status, kind of, is my understanding. So the Navy, ever since Iran started to not be all that nice, the Navy always wanted to know where all F-14s went when they were decommissioned. Come to find out, we didn't know this at the time. This was more of a fact-finding video. Okay, this was not a, hey, I'm going to make this video and be popular. This was just, hey, let's go look at this stuff and document it kind of thing. We didn't take anything from the site. We left everything just like it was. But as you can tell, they got graffiti on them. There's pecking at the glass right there. So, I mean, there's no secret that they're there. Okay.
Right.
But when the Fort Worth Aviation Museum contacted NavAir and said, hey, are you aware of these two F-14s and an F-4 Phantom, that one right there, in this field down in Temple, Texas? It's no secret now. And NavAir goes, what? And he goes, okay, so the director of the museum, he reached out to me. He goes, you shot a bunch of video, right? And I go, yeah. And he goes, can you just throw something together so I can send it to NavAir? And I was like, sure. So I just put together like a 7-minute video or whatever, and I sent it to him. He sent it to NavAir, and they were kind of surprised. They kind of, I think they felt like they may have been caught with their pants down, like, oh my God, there's parts of an F-14 or two F-14s in this field that we didn't know about. So I think they were kind of, they could have been embarrassed about it. But like I said, there's nothing of value there. And so about 9 months or so goes by, and I go, well, if the Navy was going to do anything about it, get them out of there, whatever, they'd have done it by now, or at least have it secured if they wanted to do that. So I reached out to Jim Hodgson, the director of the museum, and I go, hey, do you think I could just go ahead and put that video live? He goes, yeah, that'd probably be fine. So I did, and well, stuff hit the fan. NavAir never approached me about it, but I heard that they were kind of rather upset that I went public with the video. But like I said, there's graffiti on the airplanes. There's no secret, okay? You can see how big those trees are growing through them. They haven't been there for a year. They've been there for multiple years. Come to find out, the two F-14s were damaged at Dallas Naval Air Station and they were being used as cannibals to keep the other one or two squadron of F-14s in airworthy status. So they would pick pieces off it every now and then, keep the other ones flying. And when the base decommissioned, I think around 95, the F-4 Phantom was a pole guard. We saw the structure underneath, and we looked at whatever little markings were there, and we said, okay, that was a pole guard in Navy Dallas. Then it started all kind of come together. So the Navy probably just, I think the tensions with Iran weren't that bad at the time, maybe around 95 or so, so they just sold them off as scrap. There's nothing of value there. Nothing they can get off of this is going to keep their birds flying. The avionics are gone, hydraulics are gone, this, not whatever. The landing gear's on them, and some sheet metal. And that's about it. But some people kind of pulled focus to the wing boxes, which are the hinge points for the wings, because they're solid titanium. And they're still there. And I don't know what the current condition of the aircraft is. This is probably at least 2 years old now, at least. But Popular Mechanics got a hold of it. They did an article on it, and it just several other publications, I think, did. And it's funny because all of us that are now in the know look at it and go, oh, okay, it's not that of a thing, It was at the time, and it being there was kind of spooky or eerie, because we're just, anytime you're in a wreckage of an airplane, if you want to call it that, it's just odd. And especially with these F-14s that we know probably shouldn't be here. The F-4 Phantom still shouldn't, but it's not as touchy of an airplane,
right?
But it's just weird. But now that the cat's out of the bag and stuff, and it just we try to every time someone would post a comment on there, oh, it's in Temple, Texas, here's a Google, or I would actually remove those because I was worried about NavAir getting pissed off at me, coming after me. And after a while, it just said, man, there's graffiti on the airplanes. I'm leaving it. Let's just let people have fun with it. And it is what it is.
Now
there's the mounting structure.
Oh, sure, for the pole guard
F-4 Phantom. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to go do like a follow up. Like, what if are they even there? I'm just so surprised that people aren't like. I mean, I guess people are maybe pulling chunks off. Like,
oh, sure, yeah, I'm sure. I've heard of people getting in trouble for having F-14 memorabilia parts from other sources, not these, but just other sources. So we were not about to take anything from that site. One cool thing inside, I think the front cockpit of that F-4 Phantom right there, the throttles were still there. And of course, you're looking. I think they're stripped out of the back there, but I think it still had just the throttle handles on the left side. And you're looking at that going, boy, that would be cool as a desktop kind of thing, But we're like, oh well, it's time to go. So we just went,
Yeah, what a cool story here. Let's see. Yeah, there they are.
It was cool and eerie.
Man, what a cool story. Thank you, by the way, Nathan Ballard. Again, thank you for contributing to my haircut fund so I can look like the people's photography hero, Erik Johnston. We could do that. We could trim it up the sides. That's a thing I've been wanting to do a lot of. Like, I was talking to a filmmaker friend of mine the other day, and she was like, "Oh, like, what would you like? What's the kind of stuff you want to do?" I was like, "I want to do like." Maybe this is we could collab. We could go to like Star Wars Canyon. Like, I always wanted to do that. Have you probably done that?
Are they still doing that?
I don't know. I want to go like or the Mach Loop. Let's go to England. Let's go to the Mach Loop.
The Mach Loop would be cool.
Let's go do that.
I think the Mach Loop they still might. And people might post in the comments here if they can do it. Star Wars Canyon. I don't know if they've opened it back up. Maybe they have, but they shut it down for a while. I think they had a Hornet crash over there. And they shut it down for a good while. And they might be doing it again. But Star Wars Canyon would be easy. If they're doing it, that's easy because that's here in the U.S. But the Mach Loop, that would be cool. England's a lot more forgiving. You don't have the FAA over in England. You have the CAA or whatever it is. But, you can do a lot. You can do some cooler stuff in England that you cannot do over here.
Let's go. Like, I want to go there and just like I guess they post the schedules for the Mach Loop like on the internet. Like they just
really?
like it's just like
okay.
Oh, like this is when they're flying. So then you like climb up to the top of a mountain and then a mountain because it's England, but whatever.
Yeah.
Climb up to the top of a hill and then there it is.
And there's guys that have been doing this for years. So all we would have to do is pair up with them and say, hey, would you mind educating us as far as where to go and when and stuff like that? And can we go with you? It's doing stuff like that. It's kind of cool to share that stuff with other photographers. Aviation photographers can sometimes have a pissing contest way about them.
Sure,
it's like, this is my shit, this and that. And it can be competitive, and I understand that. But it's also fun to be in the environment, to share the experience with other photographers for a sense of camaraderie and education. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know everything about this stuff. So if I can learn something from you or from him, that's valuable information. And if I have something that could be a benefit to someone else, then, hey, cool, this is what I use. What are you using? How do you like to do it? Whatever. So it can kind of cross-pollinate, kind of be mutually beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I say that to Bryon Turner all the time. Like, a rising lift raises all gliders. We're almost out of time. Before we wrap up, I'm looking for something that was mysteriously sent to me on my phone.
You take your time. I got all night for you, buddy.
Would you be willing to play a game with me?
Yeah, sure.
It's a game called Short Final. And basically what we do on Short Final is we have a minute on the clock. I ask you a bunch of questions. You give a bunch of super cool answers. And there are no points,
right.
So you've already won. So let's see. We've got some special guest questions came in. So we'll see what happens. So I'm going to hit the music here. Hit the timer. All right, Erik Johnston, aviation photographer and YouTuber. First of all, your favorite Grumman, the J2F Duck or Bryan's Traveler?
Duck.
Okay. What about
it's the Duck.
Sorry, Bryon. What about IPAs or Scotch ale?
Ooh, it depends on how fast I want the desired result. Scotch.
Okay. What about the favorite pilot you've ever flown with? And I'm supposed to show you this hint. That hint, you probably can't see it. It's on my phone. That hint photo there.
I can't. It's too blurry.
Doesn't matter. Who's the favorite
pilot
you've ever flown with?
That'd be my dad. My dad.
Suck it, Bryon. All right. So, what about you've photographed a ton of warbirds. What is your favorite warbird?
Corsair.
So that it was like that first one, right? Didn't you say?
No, it's not the first one. Oh, it was my favorite or the first one?
Well, no, the favorite. Sorry, I'm being a bad interviewer. You said in that first kind of flight where you hanging out the back, it was a Corsair there, right? Like, so that's like.
Yeah, but I shot a Corsair back in the 90s. Back when I was shooting film. 35 mil.
What's your favorite?
I know.
What's your favorite film stock?
Oh, golly. I got a kick out of when I could finally bulk load it myself. I could get over 40 shots in a roll. So I wasn't trying to change as much while we're doing the shoots. Probably Kodachrome. I think that was just kind of a naturally go-to. You can find it everywhere.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
A lot of
I was
people
not expecting that question.
Like Fuji. Are you Sony or Nikon?
No, Fuji was good too.
Or Nikon, Canon, Nikon, Sony. What do you shoot right now?
I'm a Canon guy. It's so funny because Canon and Nikon have just been for decades now, just been always one-upping each other. And then it seemed like Sony just came out and goes, bam.
Yep.
Way in front of them. Now, their menu sucks. Their software sucks. Whatever.
Getting better.
The quality, it's getting better. The low light capability. I would actually like to upgrade from Canon to Sony, but it's what feels comfortable in your hand and what you feel whatever you're able to produce the results with. If you can do it with Sony, that's your brand. If you can do it with Nikon, Canon, those are your brands. Everybody's like, oh, I'm a Canon guy, I'm a Nikon guy, whatever. Hey, it's funny because I'm still shooting crop frame. I got a Canon 70D, and it wasn't that long ago I was shooting with a 60D. And it's just the opportunities that I have. People ask me all the time, hey, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel, or I want to do this. How do you get to do that? And I go, do it. Just go do it. I go, put yourself in the environment to where that you're at least able to capture something. Okay. Don't get so bogged down with, my dad taught me this. He goes, do not let your equipment be your handicap. Okay. Don't go, well, I couldn't do the shot because my camera only does this or my camera only does that. The only time you should upgrade is not for the hope of getting better shots because of your lack of ability. It's because you have pushed your equipment to the absolute max and your equipment cannot keep up with you anymore at that moment. Then you upgrade. And my dad taught me that. He goes, never blame the equipment. He goes, things break, then there's the equipment, But he goes, never go, oh, well, my camera couldn't do this, whatever, And he goes, but just don't get in that mindset. He goes, take what you have and push it as far as that equipment can possibly go. Do I want to go full frame? You're darn right. I want to upgrade. Okay. There's a cost involved with that. So it's going to take time to get to that point because, it's aviation photography. You're talking about two very financially strong labels there. So it's going to take a while to get to that, financial status of saying, okay, I'm ready to pull the trigger. I'm going to spend $5-10 grand and get all this stuff done. I mean, it's kind of a leap. So I got to be ready for it.
Dude, and I think that's the thing too, right? Is like, we was talking like film school, right? It's like the idea of like, well, like you can shoot the most horrible film ever made on like the nicest cameras, right? Like it's more about storytelling. It's more about the story you're trying to tell with your shots or with for me with the motion stuff. And I never would have this show. It's funny. I'm playing both sides right now. The show is filmed on a Canon M50, a little like vloggy camera, but with Canon L glass because I'm a snob like that. The 24-105 that you like is what I shoot this show on. But then like I went to Sony because at my day job, owning a production company, right? Like we're filming interviews and that's like a great B cam and it plays well with kind of like the current motion picture leader. I will tell you, super stressful to buy like $6,000 worth of crap and then like come out to shoot vlogs with it or whatever. But but it's like that, this camera, like as an example, like this is not like all the videos people have watched of mine that they like they weren't good because I didn't even have this, right? I was like a $600 camera, the M50 or whatever. You can get for like $600. And it's like it's less about that. Granted, I had like a $1,500 lens in the front, but it's less about that and more about like the story you're telling, right? I should be wrapping up the show, but real quick before we L series for the win. Absolutely, Dan. That's part of it for me. I was like, oh, like it's got red on it and it's white. That's the brand for me.
That's expensive.
This is my wedding gift to myself, which I promptly
dropped. There you go.
And then had to send in for service.
Oh no,
it was an expensive gift. So
I'd love to say I've never done it.
Talk to me real quick. Before we wrap it, you have also, not only are you a photographer, you have this like very encyclopedic YouTube channel, and I'm wondering if you could just tell people a little bit about that side of we've talked a lot about stills. I'm going to click through some of the stills before we hang up for the night, but tell people about this YouTube channel, because you got, that F-14 video we just saw, I think was up there, but what other kind of stuff are you doing?
I started that thing probably about 12 years ago, about 11 or 12 years ago, and I've never had, and I wish I did, I've never had a niche as far as, I'm going to make these kind of videos, and it has since grown into that, and kind of accidentally. Some people jump into YouTube as a business going, okay, I want to do this, I have to tag it this way, label it this way, it's got to be, the videos can't be longer than this long, and I got to get sponsors for this and that's great. I just never approached it in that fashion. So when I started doing YouTube, I was like, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna go over here to this, I'm gonna go over here to that, I'm gonna make some friends here, make some friends there, and that's still the kind of method of madness that I use to this day. but it also has accidentally turned into kind of a business as well, because every video I just wanted to naturally make better than the last one, mostly from a post-production standpoint, because I remember when I was a kid watching the award shows, on TV, and the award for best editing, I was like, who are these guys? Why are they getting an award? Now I know. That's truly where all the magic happens. And when people come to me saying, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel, and I go, post-production, get ready for it, and anticipate this. Here's my number. Call me if you get in a bind. And I've had people take me up on the offer, say, hey, what should I do here? And I recommend this or that. But the videos that I really do enjoy doing now, I like, of course, any air-to-air stuff, okay? And there's one of those cool shots.
Whew.
And but
sorry, I'm like, tell me about
videos.
your YouTube channel, and I'm going to show some amazing stills. So it's a cognitive dissonance.
It's all good. Well, actually, I got video of that flight. I just need to edit it. I've been so busy. Post-production takes a long time, and I've been. If I were to stop shooting right now, I've got enough backlog. I could edit for about probably half a year, and I could stay busy at it. But yes, putting the GoPros on the airplanes, I've learned a lot from that, and I've never, knock on wood, I've never lost one yet. And I've the slowest airplane I've ever mounted a GoPro on was a Aeronica. Well, that Aeronica C3, that was at SwampSTOL, and he was going 60 knots, something like that, 60,
maybe
knots.
Downhill, yeah.
And downhill, full throttle. And the fastest jets that I've done would be probably the MiG-23 or the A4 Skyhawk, and we tested those mounts up to about 450 plus knots, but a solid 450 knots. And the cameras have not departed the aircraft as of yet. Whenever I put GoPros on an aircraft, whether it's a Aeronica C3 or a jet or a Pave Hawk, whatever, it doesn't matter. We look at it, and I have certain guidelines that I adhere to all the time. Say, okay, first of all, what could go wrong as far as how could this mount fail, or what could be a leading cause to make this camera depart this aircraft, and how do we mitigate that? How do we stop that from happening by thinking about it now? And also, I will never let a pilot fly their airplane without them knowing exactly how many cameras that I have on their aircraft, how they're mounted, and I get their blessing from them. And there's a trust factor there. Instead of just saying, well, I know what I'm doing, just deal with it. No, that I'm not that guy. Okay. I got this camera here. I got this camera here, and here are these other 5 cameras. Okay. And here's how I have them all mounted. And if there's any objection, okay, even though I've been doing this for long enough to where that I'm confident in my ability, if the pilot ever says, I'm not sure about that one, let's take it off. It's not worth it. I want them to fly their airplane, not worry about all this other crap that I have strapped on it. Okay. Yeah. I want them to have a safe flight, and I'll get whatever footage I'm able to get.
Should we talk about this real quick before we sign off? Because that was the other cool thing you just did.
Nah, that was boring. No, I'm joking. That was so cool. That was Captain Phil White reached out to me one day. He's the pilot of the whiskey model Jolly Green 2 that I'm in, and the one you can kind of see over the runway, that's another whiskey model. The whiskey models are the brand new Blackhawks, if you will, but they're called Jolly Green 2. They're totally new helicopters. The one that we were flying in had about 200 hours total time on the airframe. That's how new they were. They haven't even been tested with weaponry yet as far as guns go. So that's why we couldn't load out any guns on it for the photo shoot, because they hadn't been tested yet with them. So even as far as putting mounts on them, I mean, the mounts are there, but they haven't done it yet really. So, we can't do that. But we also have the Legacy G model Pave Hawk, which is just a little bit out of screen there. And so this was what we dubbed the Heritage Flight, since we were going to shoot the G model Pave Hawk in formation with the brand new whiskey model. And so there we were just basically in a hover, and right before there we just put the cyclic forward, we flew over Moody Air Force Base, got a couple shots with the Heritage Flight over the base, and then we went over the town, which I can't think of the name, but anyways, we did a couple orbits over there, and then we landed in the LZ, the landing zone. And Captain White kicked me and the other two PAs, public affairs people off, and then he dusted off, and then the other Pavehawk and Jolly Green came in and just beat up the LZ for a good 45 minutes, repeated landings and takeoffs and fast passes over braking, and we're looking at this going, this is the coolest gig in the world, and all of it because of all the hard work that Captain White did. He saw my A-10 walk around, and he got a big kick out of it, and he sent me an email going, hey, would you be interested in doing a walk around on an Air Force Blackhawk? Well, whenever you say Air Force and helicopter, you got my attention because normally that's not in the same sentence together. So my response to that email was, call me. Here's my number. I go, I want to get this dude on the phone and find out what's going on here. Fantastic gentleman to talk to. And he goes, yeah, I'd like to get you out here to do this. And then we're moody, can't pay you anything, but, this, and that. And I go, I'm there. I go, if you can make this walk around happen. So it kind of steamrolled because he was so good at getting the permission that I needed to get, or that we needed to get me on base, to get me on the flight line, to get me basically, I kind of had, it felt like unrestricted access. I felt like a rock star when I was there, and I was the smallest portion of this whole effort, if you will. When we first got there, he goes, they're time critical, so they're like, hey, at 1100 hours, which we were early, we were like 8 o'clock, and he goes, we're going to meet over at the 71st Rescue Squadron and did the walk around on the HC-130. And I'm like, yes, so we had it arranged. We're going to do the G model Pavehawk, the Whiskey model Jolly Green 2, the HC-130 walk arounds. We wanted to do the Tucanos, the Super Tucanos out there. The squadron guys wanted to do it, but I think Hungarian or something like that still owned the airplanes, and we couldn't get the permission from the Hungarian Air Force or whatever country owned them. So we just couldn't do that. But it probably worked out best because it was still a full plate of shooting over a 3-day period. And the guys, even the C-130 guys, everyone was just so thankful and just like, oh man, we're so happy that you're here. And I'm like, dude, this is such an amazing opportunity. I can't believe that I'm getting to be here. So, whatever I can do, my main goal is to make you guys look as good as possible. So as we're doing these things, we had the PAs with us the whole time, the public affairs, to make sure that we didn't do anything or say anything that we weren't supposed to, get out there. And it just worked out great. It went so smooth. And the biggest blessing for that whole thing was Captain Phil White, because he worked so hard to get me into where I needed to be with him and with others the whole time. But not only that, he practiced so much in preparation for this shoot. And you can watch those two videos, the walk-around videos on the G model and the Whiskey, and you can tell the effort of preparation that he put in there because of his amazing knowledge of the aircraft. The G model, the legacy one, the G model, the Pavehawk, it's an hour and 24-minute long video, and he never stops talking because his flow is phenomenal. And the Whiskey model was a little bit shorter because some of the things were covered in the G model that just didn't need to be hit on again. So it's like an hour and 5 minutes or whatever it is. And I'm editing. I just got done editing the HC-130. And I'm in the process of having the crew review that. Fuego, the pilots, give me the thumbs up. I got to have the CISO and the Loadmaster give their blessings on it. Because whenever we do these walk-around videos, there's so much technical information that's coming out that it's so easy for someone to misspeak when they're on camera.
Sure.
Whether it's takeoff knots, stall speed, or whatever, or the cargo capacity of the HC-130. It's so you put a camera on it, you know what it's like. You put a camera on it, and it's a different scenario. That's why I like to be behind the camera. So that, I told him, I go, I'll edit it, and I'll do a rough edit, okay? That way I'll send it to him. Let me know whatever changes need to be made. And because I still have changes I want to be made, so I can make them all at the next edit change. Sure. Send it to them. Sometimes I'll do five versions of it. We do whatever we have to do to get everybody on the same sheet of music, to get their blessing on it. That way, whenever we go live with it, especially the military stuff or the DoD contract stuff, okay, then we everybody knows what's out there because there's keyboard warriors out there.
There's a few in the chat right now
We all know, but it's important for us to know what's out there. So if anybody tries to talk any smack, we can shut that down immediately. So,
I think I told you this when we were in Louisiana, but what I love about the walk around videos is I think a lot of times in my content I worry about like making them like approachable to everybody. Like I want my wife, who does not care about airplanes other than I care about them, she will listen to me talk about them.
Same here.
Like like I want her to watch my videos and enjoy them. The side effect of that is it's not as enjoyable for us, right? Like the nerd part that itch isn't scratched. And I think I told you we'd I don't know how many bottles of wine we were in, but I admitted to like, what I love about your content is that it is like, it hits like there's some part of the aviator brain back here that like you're hitting exactly because you're just doing what no one else is almost brave enough to do, right? Just be like, here is everything about this plane or this aircraft.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I'm just I'm gonna make sure it's presented to you in a way that is easy to understand. I'm gonna make sure we cover all the stuff that you're super curious about and things that you maybe have literally could not find information on unless you were in the military or unless you've flown that type. And it's just like aviation nerd stuff, like so unapologetically.
Totally.
And I
Totally.
appreciate that so much because you're just doubling down on it. I mean, obviously it's successful. Like the channel is growing a lot, and the videos do really well. But like, there's like a certain bravery in that I really respect. Just being like, you know what would I want to do? Would I want to watch a really long video about an A10 where we talk about every little piece of it? Yeah, actually, yeah, I would want that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what
it's
I
so
love.
funny because it's so funny because when since they're called the walk around, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the walk around?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, are we going to pre-flight it? Yeah, we're going to pre-flight it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and every single time that we do one of these, I have to kind of, I've learned that I need to have a phone conversation with the pilot that's going to be interviewed because I need to explain to him, okay, this is what I'm wanting to do. It's not a pre-flight video. It's not a 5-minute video. It's not even a 15-minute video. And I go, the more there is to the airplane, the more there is to talk about. And just a perfect example, when I shot the B-52 over Barksdale just a couple weeks ago, I was talking to Colonel Bull, I think. God, I'll have it right when I edit it. But super nice guy, and he goes, "Oh yeah, this and I'll be your guy. I'll be on camera. Listen, 20 minutes, we'll be done." I was like, "Nah, it's the buff." I go, "It's a big airplane. It's going to take more than that." And I haven't. That's going to be one of my next ones to start editing. But when I started to explain to him in detail what exactly I wanted, and once again how in depth I wanted to go with the video, then I could, even over the phone, I could hear the light bulb go off, and he was like, "Wow, I'm going to need to bring in some of the other crew," because I told him, I go, when we go internally, I go, I want you to talk about every duty station, every crew station, and go into as much detail as you possibly can about what they do, and how what does that button do? I go, literally, what is that button? What does it do? What is that button? What does it do? And you just work your way and you cover every single button that you possibly can. The only part that we were not able to cover was on the second level. Yeah, there's 2 levels inside of B-52. On the second level, behind the cockpit, facing aft, facing the bomb bay, those 2 crew stations, they had a rubber tarp, kind of a drape up covering those things. Now, of course, it's the B-52. There's not a lot of classified stuff, but there was still stuff there that I was not privy to, and that's fine. I was working with 3 PAs, public affairs people that were helping me out on that one. They were fantastic to work with. Cool side note about Barksdale. My dad, that's the base that my dad retired out of in the 80s. So for me to go back to when they picked me up at the visitor center, we were driving around. I'm looking at all the base housing, this, that. I remember that bit. It was a trip down memory lane for me. And then we were driving by, and I go, "Oh, that's the old Aero Club that my dad and I used to fly out of, and that's the old A10 hangar over there, and this, that." And all they have now is B-52s out there. But when I was there in the 80s with my dad, we had Buffs, we had 135s, we had KC-10s, we had Tweets, we had a whole reserve squadron to A10. So I mean, it was a booming. Yeah, it was really super cool, and so we started driving on the fly line, and we go, "That's our bird." And it was so funny when we were shooting the cockpit. I know we're running out of time, but
no, we're fine.
So we were shooting the cockpit portion, and they brought out the Air Force. God love them, man. They are so freaking awesome to work with. They brought out an air conditioning cart. They did this at Moody as well when we were doing the HC-130. They brought out this air conditioning cart that was about the size of a van. And I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna suck with the audio, this and that, whatever." But it was so nice having the air conditioning cart there that we were shooting the cockpit portion, and we started kind of sweating more, you know. And I was like, "Man, I don't think that AC cart's putting out cold air anymore, you know." So I went down there and I felt it. My camera's overheating, and we're dealing with those issues. And I went out to the crew chief and I go, "Man, you might as well shut that AC cart down. And it's just not working, you know." And he was okay. So he powers it down, and right before he shut it down, he goes, "Yeah, it's blowing about 90 degrees." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why it's hot up in there." So he shuts it down, and then we quickly realized that it's 120 in the cockpit. And that 90-degree air was feeling really good. So we go, "Can you please turn that back on?" Because it's amazing how at that point we were okay with that, you know. And so they brought it back out, and we were able to finish it. But I remember the last guy that I interviewed on the B-52 was the crew chief. And it's so cool. When we shot the C-130, we went up on top. And I hate heights. I hate them. I can fly, aerobatics, open cockpit, doesn't matter. If I stand on my roof, I can't do it, you know?
Yep.
So we get up on the cockpit of the C-130 because that's where the air refueling receptacle is. So that's the best area to shoot that. We get up there, and it's hot. My hands are burning. I'm, once again, not complaining. It's just it is what it is. We get up there, and I'm going, "Oh, crap." My knees start to kind of shake a little bit. And I go, "Hand me my camera." So I'm holding my camera on the gimbal like this, and I go, "Suck it up. You're never going to get this opportunity again." So I breathed. I make sure I didn't lock my knees. And I go, "Can I go back there to the wing root area?" Because it's a bigger area. So we did that, and I was fine. But on the B-52, I asked the guy, and I go, because the B-52, it doesn't have ailerons. It's got spoilers. So the best vantage point to document those is up on top of the wing. So I asked him, I go, "Can we get up on top of the B-52? He goes, "Yeah." So he pulled over a ladder. We get up on top of the B. We're walking over there. I'm filming this now. I go, "Talk about this, talk about that, whatever." And as we crawl over the fuselage, we're kind of standing on the fuselage on the rivet line for a second, and you could hear the airplane going ping, pop, creak, pop. It's always making sounds. And I looked at the crew chief, and I go, "Is it always doing that because thermal expansion, whatever?" He goes, "Yeah, it's exactly right." He goes, "The airplane's constantly making noises because the heat, there's thermal expansion, is heating, contracting, and all the time, and it's always adjusting to it." But there's talk about maybe even re-engineering, putting new engines on it, you know. But they're projecting the lifespan of the B-52 to be around 2050-ish. So who knows?
Two things that I wanted to respond to. One was the sound stuff. I remember when they had was it Osh 19? I think a B-52 was there, and they did a little expose on how the fuselage skins were like wrinkly.
Wrinkled because the wings sag down.
Yeah, so it kind of like, you know, there's like tension to be, and they're like, "Look at here, RV builders, like, you know, even the military."
Yeah,
like,
because when it depends on the fuel load. When it's on the ground, if it's full of fuel, both outriggers, the wheels on the under the wingtips, basically, they'll be touching. If it's light on fuel, they'll be off. And if the airplane's balanced, and if the wind favors, both outrigs will be off. It's pretty interesting. Or sometimes it'll have a heavy load to the right or left. That outrigger will be that way. But as it's going down the runway, the wings will flex up just a little bit, and it'll tighten up that skin on the fuselage. Sometimes it'll still be wrinkly, but it'll be much less.
So that was the funny thing I thought of. And the other one, it was a meme I saw today. It was like two time travelers, and they like come in from the past to the future, and they go, "Hey, do you know what year it is?" "No." "Well, let me ask somebody." And it's like, "Hey, is the B-52 still in service?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "I have no idea what year it is. It could be any year."
Marty, it's 2025.
People in the chat are joking that we are now on long final. We did short final 30 minutes ago. When I were on long, we were on a go around.
But they're still chatting.
They're still here. We're in the 10th. We're in the going around. Imagine two video guys talking and the show runs long. What are the odds?
I tell you what, let's have a little fun with everybody in the chat. There's always a big debate as far as warwords go. I know. Yeah, let's go and stir this up a little bit. Okay, all you guys and gals, whoever in the chat, which airplane's better, the P-51 or the Corsair? Let's see where this goes.
Well, everybody, thanks so much.
You can't just say.
I will say for me,
end this.
For me, my favorite growing up was the P-38. I don't know why.
Oh, nice.
I think it's because the game aces over Europe.
It's cool.
And
yes, with the vertical one, where do you go?
No,
yes.
Actually, aces over the Pacific would be the. No, it was aces over Europe. Was the P-38, and
was it that one or was it? Okay, I'm thinking of the older game, 1943. Older game.
This is like.
It's still cool.
This is like. Oh man, that must have been like 1990s was the Aces games, Aces over Europe or whatever.
Okay.
So anyway,
I'm thinking 80s.
Maybe it was the late 80s.
Look at the chat.
Yeah, they're going.
Corsair,
okay,
Corsair,
yeah. Corsair, P-51, Corsair, P-51.
I'm more of a Bearcat guy.
I will tell you.
That's not the question.
Because I didn't answer it either. I think for me it's the Corsair. I love it. I mean, I would love to ride in a P-51. They're beautiful. They are beautiful. Yeah. But the Corsair, something about the like the bent wing, something about all that stuff. I just liked them. I don't know.
It's so fun to playfully banter or argue between the two, which one's better, because they both had some attributes that just make them shine. And my ending argument is it's comical, and I go, well, the Mustang never had a TV show.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and absolutely. I go, after that, they're like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. I used to watch Black Sheep all the time. It's really cool. But no, I mean, of course I love the Mustang. The Mustang is an amazing airplane. But it's fun. It's fun to banter between those two. It's like, which one's better, the B-24 or the B-17? You could just get guys going all night with it.
Canyon K says, where was that? I just saw that. The longer this goes, the L glass is hurting more than helping. Yeah, we're at 200 millimeters now. We should wrap it up. Eric, dude, I am so honored to have gotten to know you down at SwampSTOL. So thankful to have you on the show tonight. Brother.
Thank you for having me. I was looking forward to this.
No, well, it's been a blast. Obviously, we ran over. 30 minutes over because we're just shooting the stuff, trying not to swear.
Who cares? We're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you're going to be at Oshkosh? Is that a thing for you this year? Are you going to do that?
Probably not, unless I can find a mirror. Yeah, I know. The only time that I've ever been to Oshkosh was in '99, and I was working.
Really? I thought you were like there. Okay.
No, I've always wanted to go back because I was working at the Kavanaugh Museum, and we brought several airplanes up, and we crashed our Corsair into Howard-produced Bearcat. So we picked up the Corsair off the side of the runway. My boss was paralyzed, and it was just – I've always wanted to go back and have fun.
Yeah.
So last year I thought was maybe a possibility. COVID, and this year, I mean, I got the press credentials. They were quick in responding to that, but it's just financially, it's just I got to find a way to make money up there, and it just hasn't happened. So
it's hard to
maybe
make money
next
up
year.
there when everyone's like, I
it
will
is.
do it for free. It's hard to
Yep.
compete with that. All right, well maybe we won't, but dude, let's have you on the show again soon, and let's you and I get together.
Okay.
Maybe I just need to come down to Texas, just get that done.
Yes, you do.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it, buddy.
This has been a blast. Everyone, thanks for hanging on through long final. I think we're gonna call it that for now. Be sure to tune in next week. And if you haven't, go check out the episode with Ami Eckertley from the Kelch Aviation Museum last week. That was a good one too. Until we meet again, my friend, we will see you. We'll see you in the internets.
All right, brother. Take care. Good. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. All right, we'll see everybody. Have a good night.
Anytime. All right. Bye.